You have tuned into the BearDown Corner with your host, Sergeant Julio. Hey everybody, this is Sergeant Julio, and you've tuned into the BearDown Corner. We got your Week 3 recap all ready to go, so let's get right into it as we got your news notes to get you all ready for Week 4 of the NFL coming up. All right, so we had this week a bunch of great games, starting with Thursday Night Football, where the Buffalo Bills hosted the Miami Dolphins, where they tortured them to 31-21. Now, let me make this clear. That game was not a blowout, though. Okay? They did control it dominantly, but Miami fought back. They brought their A game that night. It wasn't enough, though. And now, the head coach could be on the hot seat going into the next week. This guy, I think the ownership has already come out, and they've talked about how they're going to back the head coach, Mike McDaniel, okay? He's not just going to be up and gone, but how many losses can pile up until the button gets pushed and the head coach is out of town? So, even Tyreek Hill came out and said, our head coach, his piss was hot after the game. And you could tell it in the press conference, too. Now, a lot of people are starting to say, was he drunk? Did he have to maybe have a few drinky poos before he came out and talked to the reporters? So I'm sure as we hear more about that, you'll learn about it here. But anyway, they lose 31-21 to the Buffalo Bills, who Josh Allen had 22 of 28 for 213 yards and 3 pass touchdowns. Just another wonderful performance by him. James Cook racked up 108 yards with a rushing touchdown and 3 receptions, so things are looking good in Buffalo. Indianapolis went to Tennessee, where they walked all over the Tennessee Titans. 41-20 was the final there. Jonathan Taylor with 102 rush yards, 3 receptions, and 3 rushing touchdowns put the nail in the coffin of the Tennessee Titans on their wonderful hope for a miracle in Music City. Wasn't happening on Sunday. Pittsburgh went to New England, where they walked away with a 21-14 victory. Good work, Aaron Rodgers, passing Brett Favre for, I believe it was 5th or 4th all-time on the passing touchdowns today. And Jalen Warren with another excellent attempt at just trying to be the all-around utility guy. He had 47 yards rushing and 34 on 5 receptions. So just a hard-fought football game. New York Jets went to Tampa Bay, where they lost 29-27. I watched that game, or at least most of it. It was a lot better than I got to give it credit for. And I will agree with the head coach from New York Jets this week, where he basically said, look, our record does not state who this team is. I know that a lot of people might laugh at that, but these guys played hard on Sunday. They held Tampa in check. Actually, both receivers ended up going for 80 yards. Egbuka and Shepard, while Mayfield threw for 233, 1 pass touchdown, and 44 rushing yards. Now, most of those were first down conversions, though. So let's not forget that, okay? But they battled to the very end. They were about to kick. So here, let me set it up. New York was about to kick the field goal to go ahead and to basically walk away with the win, right? Last second, Tampa Bay blocks the thing and goes running the other way to end the game. It was a hell of a play by a team that I thought they were going to get shafted in this one. New York started making plays at the end. They drove down the field. They got in position. But Tampa Bay wanted it more on Sunday. So they walk away with the tight victory of a 2-point win. Las Vegas goes to Washington, where they take on a Jaden Daniels team. Yeah, that's right. Marcus Mariota got the start this week as the backup and former first-round pick went 15 of 21 for 207 yards, one passing touchdown, and 1 rushing touchdown on 40 yards rushing. The man necessarily didn't have a revitalizing career day. He did enough to help the team win and keep that team moving in the right direction. Because the Commanders' expectations this year are probably Super Bowl or bust, really. Or at least be back in the NFC title game. Their hopes are high. So if you're not getting wins with your backup quarterback, then it's not necessarily the fact that it's a bad quarterback because your star's out, but the team's bad then. But the fact they walked away and dominated the way they did. Now, let's not be mistaken here, though. Las Vegas Raiders came back fighting. All right. Geno Smith threw for almost 300 yards with 3 touchdowns on the day with no interceptions. He had a few fumbles, though, and that was ultimately their cause and dismay. So, Washington Commanders walk away with a 41-24 victory. Los Angeles Rams went into the Philadelphia Eagles, where the Eagles walked away, and you're going to love this one because it happened twice. This was back-to-back simultaneously. So when I was watching this game, I also had the Tampa Bay game on. So at the time of the blocked kick field goal, in the Tampa Bay game, you had, by the way, Chase McLaughlin, they drove down the field and went on to score their game-winning field goal at the end, by the way, because New York Jets were just trying to take a 4-point lead at that point in the game. So, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yes, in the previous game, they went down, blocked the kick, went down and kicked their own field goal. Now, Los Angeles Rams going to Eagles, different story. The Rams led by almost 17-plus points at half. They go into the second. Basically, Jalen Hurts had to put the game on his shoulders, which he had no problem doing. That man went 21-32 for 226 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was -1 passing yard after the first half. So he threw the team on his back and said, let's go to Chinatown. And that's exactly what they did. Now, the reason it ended up with that score, though, wasn't because of any final touchdown of the game. There was, but on a blocked field goal attempt by Los Angeles to go for the win. You have a 330-pound lineman running down the field after a blocked field goal attempt? You ain't catching him. Game over. Eagles win 33-26. Atlanta went to Carolina. You know what? This one, doing the bit of research I did with it, I'll just tell you, Carolina won 30-0 over Atlanta. Atlanta got shit pumped on Sunday. Now, Carolina's win wasn't without, some help. Obviously, kick return touchdown. They ended up having some defensive help on a lot of stops. The defense looked dominant. The defense held and did what they had to do and get the stops when they had to get stops. Otherwise, statistically, there's nothing really to talk about for that game. The Panthers didn't go off offensively. It was just a grind it out. We wanted it more, way more apparently at 30-0. But Carolina came to win. So, amen. Minnesota hosted the Cincinnati Bengals, in which was a matchup of the backups. You have Jake Browning on one side of the field. As we all know, Joe Burrow is out for the next 3, possibly even longer months. Okay. That turf toe could be season-ending injury, but because it's him, he might be able to come back at the end. But let's be serious. I don't think this kid's going to be leading them to any long-term victory solution because Minnesota had their way with them. Minnesota went off on Cincinnati on Sunday as Carson Wentz jumped into the starting role with J.J. McCarthy out the next 3 to 4 weeks. And Carson looked good. 14 of 20 for 173, 2 passing touchdowns. He hit Justin Jefferson early and often, and he was not afraid of his tight end. Minnesota had a player on defense for the first time in NFL, well, at least for Minnesota's history. He's the first player on their roster in their entire history to score not just a interception return touchdown, but a fumble return touchdown, and he did that before the end of the first half. This game got out of hand real quick. They end up winning 48-10. And Jordan Mason, former backup in San Francisco, and with Jones now on IR, this man went off with 16 attempts at 116 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. You got your run game. You got possibly your quarterback for the season. Minnesota might have things to look up to. Honestly, if Wentz does, not necessarily this Sunday, but if he can stay stable for the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think it's pretty hard to take him out as the starting quarterback. Just saying. J.J. McCarthy had one good quarter, and that was against my Bears. The Lions ate my Bears last week. We have our own issues, okay? But I'll tell you this, though. Houston has issues, too. As they went to Jacksonville and lost 17-10 and are now 0-3 to start the season. The only highlight from that day for them is the fact that Nico Collins got back to his regular work schedule and he caught 8 catches for 106 yards and 1 touchdown. So, yeah, good on that. Both running backs of Jacksonville in that game, by the way, had a rushing touchdown. Green Bay travels to Cleveland, where they are supposed to blow them out, but that was not the case on Sunday. And let me tell you why. Here's the thing. Cleveland's defense should not be slept on this year. They slapped Green Bay around and frustrated the shit out of Jordan Love on Sunday. They go in. They thought it was game over. And at the end of the game, the kicker for Green Bay hooks her fucking right. Back to the field, Joe Flacco and company go, and they set themselves up for their own game-winning field goal, which he hit. Green Bay loses 10-13 to the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns, who just showed up defensively better than a Micah Parsons-led defense and showed who the more dominant was on Sunday. This Browns team could sneak away wins this year, and I have no idea the poor bastards that are going to be it. Who knows? They might even have a winning record. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that, but anything's possible. New Orleans traveled to Seattle, where they got shit pumped 44-13. Offensively, there's not really anything to discuss for New Orleans. They're just a bad team this year. Kenneth Walker had 2 rushing touchdowns, and Sam Darnold went 14 of 18 for 218 and 2 passing touchdowns. Seahawks look good against a bad New Orleans team. I guess we'll see what happens in week 4 for them. Denver traveled to Los Angeles Chargers, where they end up losing 20-23 on the last field goal of the game, where Cody Dicker kicks his team to the win. Justin Herbert 3 for 300 yards and 1 passing touchdown to go with his interception in a divisional shitfest of a game. That one doesn't really shock me. I'm pretty sure out of the 153 yards that Bo Nix had on Sunday, you had Cortland Sutton catching 107 of them, 108 of them. Either way, it was basically Cortland Sutton or no one. He had 14 completions. 6 of the completions went to Sutton, as he had 10 targets on him on Sunday. This was a divisional round game. It was rushing, there was defense, and there was number ones catching the ball. Now, for Chargers, on the other hand, though, you had Keenan Allen catching a bunch. You had Quentin Johnson catching a bunch. Ladd McConkey didn't quite have the game that most of us would be hoping at this point of the season for him, but he also caught his fair share. The ball was distributed evenly. The Chargers are looking dangerous. Good defense, good running, and passing like a son of a bitch. But if they stir up Justin Herbert, yeah, I don't know, man. Benito, the defensive end from Denver, was giving Joe Alt, the 6 foot, I'm the tall as an Athens god man, protecting the blind side of him, was having troubles against that defensive end this year, or that game. So that either speaks volumes to Benito, or maybe just Joe Alt had a bad game. Either way, if you can get past that line and start causing shit on the pass game, though, that's your ticket to the Chargers. You knock that down, I don't think they have enough in the run game to really do what they did last year when they had J.K. Dobbins. This Hampton kid looks good. He could be their ticket. But right now, I'm not sure. We'll see. They're 3-0. But there are still question marks, I feel. I'm not sold 100% yet on the Chargers, all right? Arizona goes to the 49ers, where San Francisco, once again, leaned on Mac Jones to throw 284 yards. He had one passing touchdown and made all the plays necessary for them to walk away with the 16-15 win on the last ending field goal of the game. And I caught part of that game. In fact, 49ers at one point were up 13-3, I believe. And Arizona clawed back. So 49ers have a lot of other issues other than just scraping by these close wins right now. It's going to catch up to them. Unless they can get healthy. But man, I don't know for that team. I do not know. All right. Dallas Bears. It was an afternoon game. America's game of the week. The Bears came out throwing, hucking, and chucking. And I tell you, Caleb Williams looked good on Sunday. He looked good. Now, that's not to say from a decimated Cowboys secondary, though. All right. Those guys got some injuries. In fact, their other starting corner, Diggs, went out this weekend as well. So, Caleb Williams, maybe it was matchup, maybe not. Either way, I'm enjoying the win for what it was. Sorry, Cowboys fans. 31-14 was the final. Williams went 19 of 28 for 298 yards and 4 touchdowns. A great day if you are a Bears fan. All right. Sunday night game. Kansas City traveled to the New York Giants, where really they had to grind the shit out of a Giants defense. Giants defense is better than I'll give them for last week. It was a divisional game, honestly. Dallas probably has a whole playbook on New York. But Kansas City, on the other hand, they gathered what they could from the previous weeks and went to work. So, not a high-flying game for Patrick Mahomes. In fact, my highlight player for that game was Cam Scatterbo. And he was the New York Giants running back who went 60 rushing yards, 61 receiving yards on 6 catches, and 1 rushing touchdown. The reason I mention him is if you're in the midst of a fantasy look and maybe you can find him on the waiver, maybe you can't. Either way, I just like to give some little highlights from the game, and I didn't find Kansas City's highlights or stats worthy of mentioning. Yes, Patrick Mahomes did enough to win the game, but that was it. This Kansas City defense is holding this team once again. That's all I'm going to say. And, yeah, let's continue over to the roundup of injuries that occurred over the weekend, shall we? 49ers, Joey Bosa is officially out. That's right. Sorry, Nick Bosa. I was thinking of his brother over in Buffalo. Nick Bosa has once again re-injured the same knee that he tore his ACL on back in 2020. He's out for the season. That San Francisco defense just took another damn hit. Already with enough injuries on offense. Now they're getting it on defense. So we'll see how long they can string together what they got going. Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb left the Bears game on Sunday with a high ankle of something. It was an ankle sprain nonetheless at the end of the day. He's out 3 to 4 weeks and probably going to be increased volume for George Pickens now. New York Giants head coach, this was a little... nothing too crazy, but he left the door open this week with reporters when they were asking about him committing to, the team's starting quarterback for the week. He didn't give a confirmation. Could there be a quarterback switch on the rise in New York? And will Russell Wilson be benched this time in his career? Cardinals running back James Conner in that 49ers game left with a season-ending ankle injury. Damn it. I hate hearing when a guy goes down like that, man. That's shitty. Because another running back as well went down on Sunday. Chargers running back Najee Harris as well. He's also out for the season with a torn Achilles. And Texans safety Jimmy Ward has been removed from the commissioner's list. Boost of an upgrade to the safety position for the Houston Texans defense, who is good, but maybe this can start making some turnover plays, given some short field, and maybe they can score some damn points. And to finish things off, the Monday Nighter, the final, the finale, 38-30 was the final as the Baltimore Ravens hosted the Detroit Lions. And what a game it was. Detroit dominated. They came away the victors as they deserved to. They ran 4 rushing touchdowns tonight. 2 by David Montgomery, 2 by Jamari Gibbs, and 150 yards plus by Montgomery after a 72-yard scamper late in the fourth quarter after Derrick Henry's fumble, which he started out real good. It was back and forth rushing touchdowns, but then it just got away on them and they couldn't recover. Plus, let's not forget that Detroit's defense came up hard tonight with 7 sacks and just making Baltimore almost look a little confused at times. That's the best way to put it. It was a competitive, tough fight, knock 'em in Baltimore fighting territory, but at the end of the day, Detroit came away with the win. And that is all that matters for that team, as they want that Super Bowl. They're earning and wanting and yearning that Super Bowl, but they have a long way to go. But hey, they lost 2 coordinators, and they're not looking too bad so far, as they've had back-to-back 35-plus point games, one of them being against my Bears, so not much I can say there. But that's okay, because you know what? That brings us to the recap wind-up here on the BearDown Corner, as that brings you to Week 3 and everything that has happened and everything you need to know to get you ready for Week 4. I hope you all have a great rest of your week. I'm Sergeant Hoyo. This has been the BearDown Corner. You can catch us live every Tuesday at 6 o'clock General Mountain Time and 8 o'clock Eastern Standard, and available anywhere you can listen to on your podcasts and, of course, YouTube. Be safe, take care, and see you the next time here on the BearDown Corner.